Hey, Rob here for Quadratec.com. I hope everybody is doing well out there in the world of stay at home, practicing their best social distancing. I'm looking forward to today because today in the shop, well, I'm not by myself. I have somebody here to help me. I have a special guest helper that I'll introduce in just a couple minutes. Now, the last time I had my Jeep here in the shop, we finished up getting the suspension installed, and I have to say, hands down, this Rock Krawler triangulated four-link Pro X suspension is incredible. And of course, I haven't had the chance to hit any trails yet because, well, they're all closed right now. But on the road, this suspension has taken all of the kind of unsettling feeling out of the factory suspension. And if I can go as far as saying that I think this rides better than the stock suspension does. At highway speeds, if you hit a little buckle in the road or an expansion joint, it takes that kind of uneasy feeling you get in the rear of the Gladiator. Any of you guys out there probably know what I'm talking about. And that's those track bars in the front and rear kind of fighting each other. And with that triangulated four-link, well, it just rides phenomenal. And then with the new Nitto Trail Grapplers installed as well. And these are a big, aggressive tire, but they are awesome on the street, and I'm sure they're going to be great on the trail as well. For as aggressive as a mud terrain as it is, it's still very, very quiet. Now, I did install the Taser JL Mini into my Jeep to take care of recalibrating for the larger size tires, as well as adjusting some of my TPMS thresholds. And if you want to get more information on the Taser JL Mini and check out my full overview and demonstration of the Taser, you can click the info button to watch the video I put together on that. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on the plans for my build. At this point, I've got my suspension, wheels, and tires installed. My overall goal here is to build a Jeep that's going to be perfectly capable of getting the family around, heading down the road, and then hitting some pretty awesome trails. Now, that said, I'm not building a over-the-top Rock Krawler that's going to be a trailer queen, and I'm also not going off the deep end and building a dedicated overland rig. Obviously, with a big 37-inch mud terrain tire, I don't want to be putting a ton of miles on my truck cross country, but who knows? I mean, that may happen. I do have some plans probably for a rack or a tent on the back so that I can take the family, load them up in the Jeep, head a couple hours out of town, find a nice camp spot, maybe hit some trails while we're there as well. Now, with that being said, and mentioning family, I do have the CEO here with me. That's right, the Chief Elementary Officer, or is it Chief Emma Officer? Come here. I have Emma here with me today. Emma, of course, was with me in one other video we just made the other day for our hands-on homeschool project that we're launching, where we're encouraging you guys to take the opportunity while you have your kids at home to get them involved with your Jeep projects, let them get their hands dirty, teach them some new things with your Jeep, whether it be routine maintenance or installing some new products on your Jeep, which we're going to do today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we've got the suspension and the new tires on the Jeep. What do you like about the Jeep right now?
It has big wheels.
You like the big wheels?
Yeah.
Do you like the color of the wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. But when we put the big wheels on the Jeep, what does that do? What's it make it harder for you to do now?
Get into it.
It makes it harder to get in and out of the back of the Jeep, huh?
Yeah.
So, what project do you think, tell everybody at home, what project do you think we should do next on the Jeep?
We should put some stairs on.
Some stairs? I think we're going to put some stairs on the Jeep today to take care of that 5 inches of lift we added that make it a little bit hard for Emma to get in and out of the Jeep, and myself too, if we're being honest. And those stairs we're going to be installing are going to be a set of Rockslide Engineering Step Sliders, which are going to function not only as a legitimate rock slider for us, offering some protection here to the side of the Jeep when we're off-road. We can hit those rocks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we open up the door, they're going to drop down 12 inches, making it much easier to get in and out of the Jeep for really all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a tough time getting in and out of there too. So the first thing we got to do is get these factory Rubicon sliders out of the way, and then we can get started on the install. So Emma, now that we've got the bump strip installed on the Jeep and all of the body mounts ready to go, the last thing we have to do is assemble the steps by bolting the extension to the steps.
And don't forget the spacer.
Definitely don't want to forget the spacer. Whoops! Now with the steps installed on the Jeep, the next thing to do is to go ahead and get the skid plates attached to the outside of the steps. I have them held in place with a couple of the bolts underneath into the body mounts and just a few screwdrivers to keep everything aligned right now. We're going to install these drive rivets through the pre-drilled holes running down the side to secure it on the outside here. We'll simply lift up on the skid plate, insert one of the drive rivets into the pre-drilled holes, and then Emma, hit the rivet with the hammer. We did it!
What is it?
We got 6 more. Good job, Emma. That was awesome. High five. Thanks so much for your help today.
You're welcome.
I'm going to finish getting the last skid plate installed and the passenger side, and I'll get all the steps wired up and ready to go so you can go do some homework, huh?
Okay.
You going to say bye to everybody?
Bye.
I've got the skid plates installed as well as the passenger side steps at this point, and got everything torqued down to specifications from Rock Engineering. I can begin installing the wiring harness. Now the wiring harness in this kit is totally plug and play, requires no cutting or splicing into your vehicle's wiring. We simply need to make a power and ground connection over at the battery and then run the harness across the back of our firewall and through the driver's side into the driver's side kick panel here. Now there's a great grommet in place where the clutch master cylinder would normally be from the factory. Of course, this is an automatic, so I've got this blank there. If you do have a manual transmission, you're gonna have to find a slightly different spot to run your wiring through the firewall, but this is gonna serve really well. I can simply drill a hole through here and fish the wiring through. And speaking of that wiring harness, you can see it's a nice high quality harness, comes with a braided wire loom and all heat shrinked ends. And once I finish under the hood, we're gonna continue working down through the Jeep. Now with that wire harness ran down the driver's side door sills, went ahead and lifted the rear seat and removed the storage box so that I could pull back the carpet and drop the wiring down through some existing grommets to make some connections to the step motors and light kits a little bit later on. Then I continued running that wire harness across the Jeep here to the passenger side so I could do the same thing here for the passenger side steps. Now you could leave this wiring harness up on top of the carpet, but for a little bit cleaner install, of course, you just snake it underneath the carpet, cut a small slice in the carpet here to pull the electrical connection out, and then we can go ahead and plug in the control box for the step sliders. This is basically the brains of the system, and it's going to tell each of the steps when to open and close when we're opening and closing each one of the doors. Now, in order to do that, the next step I have to do is go ahead and install some door sensors in each one of the door jambs, and then connect them to the wiring harness that I just finished running. And then we can go ahead and plug in the step motors underneath the Jeep. And finally, I can install the switch underneath the driver's side dash that's going to allow me to override the system, turning it on and off as I choose. Now with that wiring harness finished being run through the inside of the Jeep, I tucked everything in through all of the door jambs, got those sensors in place in the door jambs next to the strikers, and finally the magnets here on the door. Now we can go ahead and turn on that switch to activate the system. Now with the steps down, we can turn it back off so that we can go ahead and get the light kit installed up inside of the step sliders. Now, after getting that light kit installed, I went ahead and checked the operation of the step by opening and closing each of the doors, and that really takes care of the install. Now, there's one last thing that I want to do, was customize the little rock slide badge here. Now, normally this badge is riveted right to the steps themselves. If you install the optional skid plates like I did, you have to drill out the rivets and remove the badge from the step so that you get a nice flush fit of the skid plate. And then there's normally a second badge that's riveted here to the skid plate. Well, I went ahead and removed that as well when I sent out the wheels and suspension for powder coat. You saw I had the little Rock Krawler star logo that goes on that rear truss done in that anodized red. Well, I had the Rock Slide Engineering badge done in that same red, and I think it's going to do a great job at just kind of tying in the step sliders to the wheels, the suspension, the rest of the truck here. And I could rivet those on, but the holes line up perfectly here. I'm just going to go ahead and run a small tap in there. I've got some little stainless steel button head Allen bolts that I think will finish the job out nicely and look really clean. I think that finishes up the steps really, really nicely. That red just kind of ties into the wheels and looks great. Now, I know Emma is going to be really thankful that we've got these steps on here, but let's face it, if I'm being honest, I know I am, as well as I think the rest of the family is going to really enjoy having the Rock Slide step sliders on here. They really do make it much easier getting in and out of a vehicle when you've got big tires and a larger suspension on it. Now, if you guys haven't already, make sure you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, so be sure to catch the rest of the buildup of my Gladiator, as well as plenty more from us here at Quadratec. Till next time, I'm Rob. I'll see you guys out on the trail.